It has always been a dream of mine to own a large collection of books and to have a large TBR of possibilities to pull from. But while I love having a lot of books, I currently don't want to add any more bookshelves into my home, which means that these stacks of books that I currently have on the floor are a problem. So I somehow need to get all of these books from the floor onto my shelves, which are currently at capacity, which is where this series comes in. Throughout 2024, I'm going to be stuffing these stacks onto my shelves through any means possible. At the beginning of every episode, I will use a random number generator to select books that have to make their way to my shelves or my unhaul pile by the end of the vlog. The easiest way to start may be to read them, but if I then decide that I want to keep them, I will need to choose another book from my shelves to either read or unhaul. The episode will end when the original books chosen from the stacks and all subsequent ones pulled from shelves have made their way to either their new home on a shelf or into my unhaul pile. The stacks may change throughout the year as I organically read, unhaul and rearrange my shelves. The pool of books to choose from may change slightly as things get moved around my library, or the pile could shrink with a big unhaul, or even grow if I buy too many books, but the overall goal remains the same. By the end of 2024, the stacks have to go. In episode 1, I will be starting with 70 books. Welcome to episode 1 of Shelve It or Stack It, my main project for 2024. I hope that the introduction has given you an idea of what we are doing here, but I have to be honest, like sitting here talking to you now, I do not know what the core parameters or rules of this project are going to be. Our aim is to get the books off the floor, out of these stacks, and onto the shelves through any means possible. And this is kind of like an evolution of the unhaul project, because to get these books off the floor, I have to unhaul books off the shelves, or the ones off the floor, to be able to make them fit. The shelves are at capacity, there is no room. So in my mind, this vlog series is going to be a combination of reading challenge, reading vlog, bookshelf reorganization, and unhaul content. We're just gonna find out how this works together. I don't know how many books I'm gonna be reading in this vlog. It's a complete mystery. The element of spontaneity is what's really getting me enthusiastic about starting this. And also the key difference between this and the unhaul project is that the books that I'm going to be reading are not necessarily books that I'm not excited about. They are whatever I need to read to be able to get books from the stacks onto the shelves. Now, the only core rule that we have is that we cannot add books to the stacks throughout the course of this video. So if to get the books off the floor onto the shelves, we have to take books off the shelves, which we are going to do, they cannot end up back in these stacks. And there's a variety of ways in which we can stop them from ending up over here. I could read them and decide that I don't like them and unhaul them. I could move them onto a different shelf. I could remove books that I've already read and I've decided I don't want to keep anymore. It's all very much conditional to the situation that we find ourselves in when we are trying to shelve these books. So I don't know what the process is going to be right now, but I do know what step 1 is, and that is to select our first book. I want to say that per video, I'm going to read a minimum of 3 books, maybe not 3 stacked books because it's going to be a whole chain reaction, as you will see, but 3 books will at least be attempted to be read in each video at a bare minimum. But what I am pretty sure that I want to do is randomly generate every book that I read from the stacks for this project to keep it spicy, interesting, fresh. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm here for it. So at the beginning of episode 1, I have 70 books in stacks behind me. There are 3 stacks here and also 1 here, which, I mean, if Brie moves too quickly, we're gonna have an accident. But number 1 is the one here next to Brie, right on top, and number 70 is at the bottom of this far stack here. So I'm just going to use the Google one. We'll put the max number of 70. I'll generate a few just to get it going. And our first book will be number 31. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is going to be right at the bottom of this stack, I feel. Oh. Okay, that's number 30. Really? Oh, right, okay. This is number 31. We have so many like what I wanted from this video was to start like a real new juicy fantasy, because there's some books in this stack that I'm really excited for. Actually, we have the Jazz Adair in here, which I'm really hoping comes up at some point, because I'm desperate to get to that one and I've been struggling to fit it in. But what we actually have is Alien Smut. This is Brutal Mate by Lee Savino and Tabitha Black. This is a book that I picked up for free at the very first Rare that I attended, which was in 2022, I think, in Edinburgh. And I had this signed and personalized by the authors because obviously, like, if they're providing free books, they were also there. I mean, the blessing with this one is that it is a short one. It is only 175 pages. I have to be, oh, it's Omegaverse as well. So this is going to be my first foray into the Omegaverse. We're really just like experiencing a lot of new things right now and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But this one, I have to be honest, I do only have this because it was free, because I am that bitch, and if it's free, I am going to take it. So if I'm being honest, if this was not free, would I have it? No. Do I want to read it now? No. Am I kind of regretting picking this up? Absolutely. But I do at least want to give it a try. Now, obviously the most hyped romance out there, the most hyped alien romance I mean, is Ice Planet Barbarians. I don't like Ice Planet Barbarians, so not saying that it's all downhill from here, but it's already like a subgenre that I don't think I enjoy. We will see how it goes though. It is only 175 pages. I am under no obligation to read these books in their entirety either. I will DNF these books as I would DNF any book that I was reading and not enjoying. So that's something, at least. Like, I don't have to read these books all the way through to like kind of make a decision about them. So the random number generator has spoken. I really did not see Alien Smut coming up as the first book in this project, but I'll let you know what I think when I've read some of it, I guess. So I am just about to go do my workout, but the book is on KU, so I have it on my phone for like ease of access and portability. But there has been a description of some aliens, and I'm hoping that these are not the aliens, because it says I'm only like 8% of the way in or something, but it says well over 8 feet tall, they have huge bodies and glistening flat snouts. Thick black fur covers their torsos and arms, while their lower halves look more lizardly, with scales and thick, long, blunt tails. Their arms are quite short, but their fingers are tipped with claws. So I am not a monster romance girly at all. So if that is the aliens, it could be a deal breaker for me. You have to be at least like, I want to say 90% humanoid, and anything else is a bit much. So we'll see how this progresses, but if they are the aliens, it might be over for me in this book real quick. So annoyingly, I can't remember what I've done with my little tripod, so we're gonna have to do this handheld, which is annoying, but I can confirm that the alien in Brutal Mate, like the one that's part of the romance, is not one of the aliens that I described to you guys yesterday, which is definitely good news. The love interest in here looks pretty much like the guy on the cover. He's got lilac skin and blue hair, which I think is why the cover's purple, because like, I mean, stock images, you know, this is just a regular guy obviously, but like the alien looks kind of like this. I have discovered what knotting is now. Not sure I'm a fan. Each to their own, and this is not my own. So I am 52 pages into this now, and it is going to be a DNF, because I could finish this, like, it's fine, and the writing is actually much better than I expected it to be going into it. And I actually at this point think that this is better than Ice Planet Barbarians. Like, I'm enjoying it more than Ice Planet Barbarians. That being said, I know when I finish this that I will give it a 2 or 3 star rating, because it's just not my thing. And I have discovered recently. As I've been reading more romance over the last couple of years, I don't really like smut, and I like smutty romances. I like romances that include smut, but like we've already had a sex scene in here 52 pages in, and that's just not really what I like in romance. I've discussed how I really like a slow burn, and when it comes to smut, like with very few exceptions, I do prefer it when the smut comes like much later in the story, as opposed to a lot of sex scenes like regularly interspersed throughout the book. So it's going to be a no from me. I gave it a try, but while it's not offensive necessarily, I'm not sure about not in might offend me, but generally like it's okay, but I just don't need to continue. It would just be essentially a waste of my time, and we're trying not to do that anymore. So I'm sorry, Brutal Mate. I'm especially sorry because, like I said, I picked this up at Rare, so I've met the authors and it is signed and personalized, and I just hope, because I've mentioned before that I live in a small town, so I don't want to be perceived, because like just people know who you are. It's different for me because I'm not from here, so I'm not known like a lot of people are known in small towns, but still, like I'm leaving my alien smut in the charity shops and the bookshops this small town with my name in the front cover. Hopefully it's not somebody that I know that picks this up. Yeah, that'll be a treat for whoever finds it when I donate this. This one is officially going to my unhaul pile, which makes stage 2 of this project real easy. I'm unhauling it. We have nothing further to do here, which means we are heading back to the stacks to generate a new book. So cue my anticipation, excitement, and also fear. I wasn't as scared about this challenge as I was until this was the first pick. And this is literally the only alien romance that I own. Typically, alien romance does not appeal to me, which is why I don't have any of it. This one truly was just a wild card, but let's go see what my next book of this vlog is going to be. There's a whole mix of stuff in that stack as well. I don't think I explained this, but the things in the stack are typically books by authors that I haven't read from before, and books like first books in series or standalones, because it's essentially the overspill from my shelves. But if, for example, I bought a... Why can I not think of a single author? What are authors? Who are they? TJ Klune. If I bought a TJ Klune book, I already have TJ Klune books together on my shelf, so I would take off a book by an author that I hadn't read to put all of the TJ Klune stuff together, and then the author that I hadn't read would end up on the pile. But in terms of genres, like I've brought my romances down that were stacked upstairs, so everything in there is like it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of special editions, there's some romance paperbacks, there's some random paperbacks. It's like a whole mix of new stuff and old stuff, like truly a mixed bag of my collection, which is kind of what's going to make this so interesting, because it could be a whole range of stuff that I'm reading in these videos. There's really no predicting it. Okay, here we go. All is the same, but I've set the number to 69 because obviously we've read one now. 20, so that is going to be somewhere in the middle of this big stack, because right at the bottom of this stack I think was number 30. That's scary. 6, 7, 8, 9. This one's 10. 16, 17, 18. Oh my god. Hi, I don't even know if you can see me, but it's Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. I'm pretty sure this is a dense one, so this might take me a while. Oh gosh. Right, we can do this. We can do it. Black Leopard Red Wolf. If I could have chosen, this would not be one that I wanted to come up anytime soon, especially not for like a project like this. It's one that I feel like you need to take your time with. So that is what I'm gonna have to do. But I bought this, I actually have the receipt from when I bought this, from, I think it's the British, yeah, it's the British Heart Foundation in York, and I paid £3 for it on the 22nd of June 2019. So it has been on my shelves a long ass time. I've recently moved it because I essentially want all of the books that I've read to be on the main shelves that I have downstairs, and as I'm filling those up, like TBR books are going upstairs or in these piles, so it's come off a bookshelf over there when I like rearranged some stuff and ended up in these stacks to be selected for this. Now, I've heard very mixed things about this. When this was released, I remember quite a few people picking it up, and I believe that the beginning of this is very dark. I think it's quite graphic, and I think that it is also very dense. Now, on the flip side of that, now that a couple of years have passed and there's less reviews like coming in less frequently, I guess, this one has been highly recommended multiple times. I think the sequel was also released not too long ago as well. So it's an adult fantasy. It's the first book in the Dark Star trilogy. Oh, this sounds real. I don't think I knew what this was actually about. So this is heavily influenced by African history and mythology, and it is following a guy who is a hunter who always works alone. However, he has broken his own rule and he has ended up in this group of hunters that are looking for a child that has gone missing. The members of this hunting group are each more strange and dangerous than the last. There is a giant, a witch, and a shape-shifting leopard, and as this group continues to look for this boy, the main character starts to wonder, like, who is the boy and why do so many people want him? Like, why are so many people looking for him? And it says that the author, against an exhilarating backdrop of magic and violence, explores the fundamentals of truth, the limits of power, and the excesses of ambition, and our need to understand them all. So this does sound really, really interesting. I feel like it has been a while since I've read a little bit of a big brain book, and I'm wondering if I can handle it. I'm a little bit intimidated, and I have been intimidated by this book for such a long time. It ain't the shortest. It is... oh, it's over 600 pages, so it truly is not the shortest. So we are in this one for the long haul, guys, but I have been making the easy choice a lot. Like, I've been picking up books that I know that I can finish quickly, that I know that are going to be easier to read, and at the same time as doing that, I have been thirsting for like a real detailed, intricate, like well-developed fantasy that I can sink my teeth into. So while I'm a little bit scared of this one right now, I do feel like this is the kind of thing that I'm actually in the mood for. Because I've heard such polarizing reviews, I guess the only thing I can really say is that I hope I'm one of the people who really love this story. And it's also great that the sequel was released not long ago, because I'll be able to get my hands on that one as well. Please excuse the rattling radiator once again. I say once again if you've been keeping on track of my vlogs. If this is the first vlog that you're seeing, hi. My radiator has been rattling for quite some time. We're finally getting a plumber out on Monday, and I'm so excited because I don't remember what it's like to just sit in silence, and I'm looking forward to getting that back in my life. But I had a horrendous mental health day yesterday. One of the worst I've had in a long time, because normally I try and push through it, and what I'm trying to do is not do that, essentially. Listen to my body and kind of give, because what I do is I say, if you can get through today, like in 3 days, you get like a day where you don't have to do anything. But obviously by the time it gets to that, I've spent like 3 days struggling, and I'm starting to feel better by the time it gets to the day when I can rest. So I just kind of gave into it because I'm ahead on everything that I needed to get done, and so I slept all day, and I'm not even kidding. Like, it's wild. Fatigue is one of the weirdest things that I've ever experienced, and it sucks that it's like a semi-regular part of my life at this point. But because of that, I read pretty much nothing. I spent 4 hours getting everything done that I normally would have done before 9 a.m. and then I made lunch, slept until dinner, made dinner, and then pretty much just dozed on the sofa for the rest of the day. Like, it was bad, and I couldn't concentrate on a book because every time I started reading, like, I'd read a page and then I'd end up falling asleep again. So because of that, I've read very little of Black Leopard Red Wolf because I started it really late on Tuesday night. What are days, if we're being honest? Like, who knows? Time is a construct. But I'm 23 pages into this, and I immediately understand why this is so polarizing. So at the point where I'm at, content warnings for pedophilia and sexual assault. I also looked up a few Goodreads reviews. I don't like looking at reviews before I've read a book because I don't want my opinion jaded by the opinions of other people and like other people influencing my opinions. But at the same time, I like to go into things with a little bit of context. Like, I like to go into a book knowing whether people have said like it's slow, you need to persevere with it, or like it's super dense in the beginning, so you have to like take your time with it. So I looked at a few different things, and like the way that this book has a 1 or a 5-star rating and very little in between is truly wild. Now, I know that it does rely heavily on mythology and doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of that, so I'm glad that I'm going in kind of with that knowledge of knowing that this is super dark and super graphic. I believe that there is also going to be bestiality at some point in here as well, and also the writing style is very particular. Now, I need in a fantasy book a really good plot to pull me through, and ideally also very strong characters that I don't necessarily have to like, but I feel like I have to know them. So at the minute, I can't tell you, I'm only 20 pages in, like I said, whether this book is going to provide that for me, but I will say that I going into this knowing that the writing style was quite particular. I really took my time reading the 20 pages that I read, and I am intrigued about the story. So over this coming weekend, I'm actually going to be breaking off and doing like a weekend readathon and a little bit of a weekend vlog. But tonight I do want to get through a little bit of a chunk of this. I don't want my reading experience of this to be quite as disjointed as I have been reading recently. So I'm excited this evening to kind of just knuckle down and spend the time reading. I have a workout to do, a 45-minute workout I think I have lined up, and then after that I'm just gonna cozy up on the couch and get stuck into this one. I will say that what I read was quite immersive. Like, the writing style, while being a little bit tricky, is not one that is causing my mind to wander. Like, it's one that I'm getting locked into quite easily so far. So far all right, let's say, because the graphic content is a little jarring. It's not something that I typically read, and while I'm not necessarily put off by dark graphic content, I mean, I guess it's not my preference. Like, it is a little bit disturbing. So hopefully I'll get through enough of this that I can give you a little bit more information later on. But I am definitely prepared to have to work for the first 200 pages of this book, which is why I like to read reviews on like a little bit of a book before I go in, because then I can go in with that mindset, and it's like, I don't know, like, forewarned is forearmed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm back from my weekend reading and ready to get stuck back into Black Leopard Red Wolf. I read up to around the page 100 mark on Thursday night, and I essentially read the first part. I have noticed, if you guys can see, like, there's dark stripes along the pages, which is each section of the book. So I'm roughly at this point aiming for about a section a day. I'm not sure how realistic that is, because I've read like 25 pages of section 2, but this one, like section I think 2 and 3, are pretty chunky. They're like 140, 150 pages each. So we'll see what I can do. But at the moment, we still haven't really started the plot that is laid out in the synopsis. I think we're just about to get into it. I'm on page 118. I am finding this really immersive still, and after, like, it takes me a little while to settle into it, but after a couple of pages, I'm finding the flow of it again. The content in here, the darkness of it, I don't love it, because it doesn't necessarily feel like it serves any purpose aside from to make me feel weird. Like, I'm wondering if the reason for this, and like I said, I know it does come from mythology, and mythology obviously has all of this stuff, but in terms of it being included in modern literature, like, is this just a callback to mythology, or are you intentionally trying to make me feel uncomfortable? Because it's the acceptance of all of this stuff and the, like, casualness of its inclusion within the story and within the characters' lives that's making it pretty grim and not fun to read. Like, I feel like, from what I've read from like the little blurbs and stuff on this book, that I'm going to end up rooting for this main character at some point. Like, he is a character that I'm gonna get behind. But then with all of like the casual pedophilia and everyone kind of like turning a blind eye, I'm like, can I get behind this? And the thing that's really throwing me in that regard at this point is the fact that people keep saying boys. And I'm like, when you say boys, do you mean boys as in males, or do you mean boys as in children? And it never really specifies, but the descriptions of the characters make me kind of think that we're talking about children. And that's not great. And like I said, it isn't necessarily its inclusion within the story. I don't really shy away from dark content like that in general. It's just the casual use of it throughout this story. So I guess obviously I'm only 118 pages in, so whether that has a point, whether there is a reason for the content to be dark, whether there is a reason for casual pedophilia, like genital mutilation, bestiality, like, I guess we will find out, time will tell. But aside from that generally making me feel uncomfortable and the fact that it's so frequent that I kind of can't forget about it, I'm having a good time with this, and just that it's consuming my interest. Like, I feel like I've been reading quite a bit recently that I'm not really getting absorbed into, and this is definitely doing that for me, even though the writing style isn't necessarily like my favorite or anything, and we do have like my constant discomfort. The actual story itself, like when I'm reading it, I'm getting into. So hopefully the plot will start soon, because I've been waiting a while for us to kind of like get on that path, and I feel like that might be the turning point in this story where it starts to be like very compulsively readable, because we're on the actual path of the plot. I did receive a Waterstones parcel today, which I want to open up for you guys. I might return this. I'm undecided. We'll see how I feel. I have a couple of weeks obviously to decide. I feel like I keep pre-ordering stuff and then returning it to Waterstones recently. Normally it's because of duplicates. Now it's just that I'm not necessarily sure I want 2 copies of this. It is the Waterstones exclusive edition of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And this is the matching edition to Iron Flame, which is why I wanted it, because my copy of Fourth Wing is the US first edition hardback. So it has the original like stencil sprayed edge. I also got it signed and personalized. I picked it up on my birthday trip to New York, but then because Waterstones made an exclusive edition of Iron Flame, I wanted an edition of Fourth Wing that matched when they announced this one. But now I'm like, do I care enough to need a matching copy? That's what I'm trying to decide. So ideally what's going to happen is that I'm going to read Iron Flame, decide how much I like it and how invested I am in the series, and decide whether I'm returning this one. But it is like, it's a super pretty copy. The gold is a different colour in the UK to the US one, which is interesting because it's subtle, but there is definitely a difference there. So I am just about to wrap up work for the day because I'm gonna hop on my Peloton bike as it's time for my milestone ride. It's my 450th ride, so I'm going to be hopping into a live class with Kendall Toole at 5 p.m. but before that I'm going to do a bike boot camp with Rody Rigsby. Wow. With Cody Rigsby to warm up. I'm really excited because this is my first milestone that I've actually been able to celebrate like on the bike as part of a live class instead of just like having it on the app and like pedaling along with my old spin bike. I'm really excited for that because like 450 spin rides, like just rides, is a lot. I've actually just hit my 900th workout. I think I'm on like 904. So I mean, it's a lot. Like that is, it's the thing that I like about Peloton as well, is that they keep these stats so you can see how you've done. Because like if you'd have said to me 3 years ago, in 3 years I'd have done like 900 workouts, I would be suspicious. I'd think you were lying to me. So I'm going to just wrap up a couple of bits and then get on with that. And then hopefully tonight, I do want to get quite a bit of reading done because like I said, I want to be hitting those like section milestones. So I truly did not want to be that bitch, but I am going to be DNFing Black Leopard Red Wolf at page 182. So I knew obviously that this was super dark and it was super graphic going into it, but I just don't think I anticipated how grim everything was going to be in here, because it's not just the content warnings, it's not just the rampant sexual assault that's going on left, right and center and like the casualness with which it's described. It's not just the bestiality, the mutilation, it's also the way that things are described. So Tracker, the main character, his ability is that he can smell something that belongs to someone and he can find that person instantly. They say like he has a nose, and he doesn't just pick up somebody's towel and smell it and like say he can smell the person and go and find them. He like picks up this towel and he inhales and he's like, yeah, this smells like shit and piss and cum. And I'm like, I just don't want that level of detail, thank you. So it's just that level of vulgarity even within the description that has made me like just want to put this down at this point. I did have a line that was crossed and that was somebody getting their eyeball sucked out of their head, and that was kind of where I was like, okay, enough is enough, I'm done here. But truly, just to illustrate like how much dark, like really graphic stuff is in here, within the last chapter that I was reading there was 3 separate cases of children being sexually assaulted. And I went back to Goodreads as well to, I guess, like almost double check check a bunch of reviews, particularly from people who are like my friends or my followers on Goodreads, and it was still a 50-50 split between 1 and 5 stars, and even the 5-star reviews said that you really have to work in this book, like it's uncomfortable, it's disgusting. And while I'm no stranger to graphic content, while I'm no stranger to grimdark, just the way that nothing about anything in this book was pleasant is what ultimately made me put it down. Now, there is a level of absorption in the writing style where it kind of like really sucks you in that regard, but I will also say on the flip side of that, at 180 pages in, we have still not gone to find this boy. I think around like 60 to 80 pages prior to where I put this down, Tracker was asked to look for the boy, and he spent those 60 to 80 pages recounting little tales from his history and also like some little almost like sound bites of mythology, and questioning why he should be looking for this boy. Who is this boy? Why does anybody want him? And something else that kind of throws me out of this is that I am generally not a fan of disjointed stories in this way, where within the actual storyline we keep taking it back to like little stories of things that have happened before and jumping all around the timeline. Like, I like it to some degree, but when it's constant, like, it's just not my preferred style of storytelling. So sadly, this one was not for me. I really wanted to love this one. It's just, even with the way that the people who love it say that it never gets any more pleasant, it's just a lot. Like, being in this book is a lot, and having no part of it be enjoyable but the writing style be absorbing just wasn't enough for me. So I'm mainly disappointed, not because I've DNF'd the book, because the whole point of all of these books that I have that I've heard things about but I have no experience with the author is the same as with any book. It's to try them, and if I don't like them, to put them down. And the overall point of this is to either get the books on the shelves or to unhaul them. But because this is the first installment, I really wanted to be able to move past phase 1 of this challenge at some point and show you guys a variety of ways like this project is going to work out. And so far I've had 2 DNFs. And the thing is as well is that this is different from the unhaul project in that none of the books in that stack are ones that I don't want to read. Some of them I'm unsure about. I can't predict if I'm going to enjoy them at all, but they're all there because I want to read them. I just don't have space for them, and they're by authors that I haven't read from before in the most part, and yet I am still DNFing all of them like I would if this was the unhaul project. Maybe I'd have better luck with the unhaul project at this point. Maybe we should have a resurgence. But I'm gonna, everyone keep your fingers crossed that book 3 in this vlog, at least if I don't love it, please let me finish it. I want to love it because I want to show you how the latter phases of this project are going to work, but a minimum requirement at this point is that I please just let me finish a book. So 2 books into episode 1, we now have 68 books in the stacks, and book number 3 is going to be 22. Could we have anything higher than 30 at any point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Oh my God. So apparently 3rd time is the charm, because we finally hit one of the books that I am most excited about that's in these stacks, and that is The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. So this one is by a Filipino author and it is Reylo fanfic. And while I do not understand the hype around Reylo fanfic because I don't understand the hype around Adam Driver, I always end up rating books that have been published based off Reylo fanfic really highly. I love them, which makes me super hyped for this one. I have also heard generally really good things about it. So this one is from the Adult Fairy Loot subscription. It is from October 2023, and it's one that I've been eyeing up. Like, I think this and the Jazad Air are the books that are in these stacks that I'm most eager to read. So I'm really excited that this one came up. I can't give you guys like a real good synopsis at this point, because unless I just like read the dust jacket to you, I'm just gonna skip that and I'll let you know a little bit about it when I get far enough in that I can give you some like reliable information of what this one is about. But I'm so excited. Good morning. Hello, are you ready? I don't think you're ready, girly. Oh, what's that? What is it? What's in your toes? Good Morning besties. I have potentially like not amazing news, I can't lie. I'm only 75 pages into the Hurricane Wars, so like I do accept that it is like still early days. It's not really good. It's not really good. I'm so upset. Like, y'all know how excited I was when I pulled this out with the number generator, because I mean, it's Raylo fanfic, which for some reason I seem to really enjoy. The girlies had told me that it was good, and at this point I can't even tell you what this is really about, because at the minute what I can say about this book is that it's kind of like if you put Raylo directly into the Grishaverse and the plot of the Grishaverse almost, but halfway through and like with no world building. And like within the first chapter we're dueling this guy. This one, because like when I read romance sometimes I'm like, I don't understand how you made these characters from Raylo. Like I don't understand the thought process behind this, but this I definitely understand how it is Raylo fanfic. Like literally you have this gal who is like a light warrior, although she's keeping it a secret. She's the only one of her kind as far as anybody knows. And you also have this guy who is a shadow warrior. And these shadow warriors have essentially been taking over the world and conquering all of the countries because of something that happened a couple of 100 years ago. So I'm pretty sure that this shadow guy finds out that the girl is a light warrior and he is trying to kill her. It's actually a traitor that has tipped him off. So I think I know who the traitor is. I think it's kind of obvious. I don't know if that is going to be like a main mystery in the book, but I do think I have an idea about that. And so essentially he's out to get her because the light warriors are super dangerous for the shadow guys because they can essentially like nullify their power. And she is being sent by her country, which I couldn't tell you what her country is or his country because there's so many, and there's just all of this like high fantasy language is thrown at you with literally no explanation. She's sent by her country to find this light sever, and the severs are things that I think power the magic users of the world. You have elemental ones, shadow ones, and light ones, but obviously not very many light ones. Actually not very many of any of them apart from the shadow guys. So she's going to find this thing in this country that nobody knows anything about, that she just happens to have mystical feelings about, and oh my god, she doesn't know much about her past, so I wonder what that means. And the writing ain't great, so not good times. Spoke to some pals because like when I'm struggling with a book, I just messaged a pal that I think's read it, and I'm like, do I continue? And apparently the first Aaron told me the first 40% is bad, but overall she liked it. So I'm not giving it up yet, but I did have high hopes for this and it is not proven to be what I wanted it to be. Also, in case you're curious, just because I am sat in front of this, I got some overnight oats from Protein Works, which I am about to try. I put a little bit of almond butter on top as well. I'm really just trying to up my protein intake right now. And I got some protein porridge as well, which I made it with water because that's what the instructions said. And it just tasted like a little bit like nothing after a while. So this one is the raspberry and chocolate overnight oats. The porridge was apple and cinnamon. And I'm going to try it here because the problem with protein is that you can just taste the sucralose and it makes everything taste sickly sweet. But let's see how this is. This is really good. I'm a big fan of this. Sadly, I've only got a small bag of this and I got a big bag of the apple and cinnamon, but they're currently on sale for like 50% off, so I think I'm gonna watch some more. This is really good.
Okay, so if you're like me, and if at any point you start to feel lightheaded in this position, 3, 2, 1. Right. These classes you can progress. You can modify. You can take these classes.
And then this left hand reaches towards that left toe. Side. The left hand comes all the way through. Reaches the way through again.
Good afternoon. I should probably go blow dry the parting out of my fringe before it dries like this. But oops. Just knocking things over. I am about 150 pages into the Hurricane Wars now. I can't say it's really got much better, but I would say I'm still enjoying it. I want to spend today getting through like a decent chunk of it to kind of actually get settled into the story a little bit, so we'll see how much I get read. I don't really have any plans for today because we are going out tomorrow. We're going to look at a wedding venue tomorrow, which is exciting, but still the thought of a wedding is putting fear and terror into my heart. And Curtis has actually just picked up his birthday present to himself, which is a new sound system. So he is going to be spending the next couple of hours probably installing this, which is going to be pretty cool because oh my god, if he comes in and finds Hamilton climbing all over this, there is going to be trouble. But we've had the same sound system for quite some time now, and one of the speakers was broken, so he was looking for an upgrade, and apparently this is like a super good system that was really cheap on like Facebook Marketplace because the person that was selling it is moving like pretty soon. I think he said he's going sailing for a year, which is kind of cool. So he picked it up for like really cheap. So while that's happening, I'm going to be hiding out in here for a few hours. I do have some things to do. I need to kind of take stock of everything that I need for Thailand, see what I have in terms of like toiletries, inhalers, contact lenses, medication, all of that kind of stuff, and see what I need to order. And also maybe do a little bit of research because I feel really unprepared for Thailand because it's not only like a country, it's also a continent I've never been to before. So I need to kind of like do a little bit of research. But that is my plan for the day. I've done my workout. The weekend clean has been done. I've walked Brie. So, oh my God, really amazing. I got white sweatpants and I knew that it was going to be a terrible idea. Like as soon as I got them, I was like, this is not going to go well. And I literally just helped Curtis get the speakers out of his car and look at the state of my knees. Like I've literally had these on less than an hour and I knew when I bought them that this was not a good idea. I love that for me. So I'm 178 pages into this now, so I haven't really read very much since I spoke to you not long ago, but this is literally Star Wars. And I feel like that is part of the reason why I'm not having the best time with it, because I have never been the biggest fan of Star Wars. I've seen them all because I live with a very big Star Wars fan, but I just find the directorial style of Star Wars to be very kind of flat and emotionless, like the way that the dialogue is delivered and the scening of it. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like watching a play, and it's like a stylistic choice, but it's one that I don't like. And I feel like when I'm turning the pages of this book, I can almost see the like swipe like Star Wars transitions as I'm reading. I feel like the character of Alaric is literally Kylo Ren. And the thing about Kylo Ren, the reason why I don't really understand the Hyper and Reylo is that Kylo Ren is the biggest, wettest lettuce that I have ever met. Like literally the most pathetic villain that has ever existed. Because what are you mad about, bro? You were literally here trying to be an evil overlord badly because you have daddy issues, and it's just the same in this. And I don't love a reluctant villain, because if you're a reluctant villain, why are you being a villain? Like if you don't have a good reason, if you don't want to be a villain, why are you being a villain? And at least a villain that wants to do what he's doing, a villain that has purpose, a villain that has a goal, and to achieve that goal thinks that they need to do bad things, that I can get behind because at least you have a backbone. But Alaric and Kylo Ren, they don't have backbones. They're just weak puppets for other people that are sad about some shit that doesn't even matter, that they need to just go to therapy and get over. So like the timeline in this book is skipping quite quickly. Like we start off with this war and we have the girl called Taliesin, I think, on the like Dominion side of it, and essentially the Empire, which is so much like the Empire in Star Wars. Like literally I'm struggling because I think that the ships in this book fly but are like ships with sails, but in my head they're just spaceships because of how much this reads like Star Wars. But the Empire is trying to take over the entire world, and this country that the female main character is a part of is part of the Resistance. Very Star Wars. And they're losing. Like, they're losing land, they're losing footing. And now at the point where I'm at, like, we're in a completely different country. A whole ton of stuff has happened. The war's gone out the window, and now we're trying to make an alliance to prevent further damage, even though a whole ton of damage is already done. So like the pacing of the plot is super fast, and I don't know whether we're supposed to be getting to a romantic point more than we're supposed to be getting to a plot point, because they've been introduced They've fought a couple of times, which was also very Star Wars, and they've come face to face, they've had a discussion, they've gone their separate ways, and they're about to come face to face again. So I don't know whether the point of this story is more the romance than anything else, but I mean, I just can't get behind Kylo Ren. If you really look at him and his reasons for doing what he's doing, because I feel like people act like he's this like super layered, deep bad boy, and I'm like, he's just a crybaby. My guys, he is just an entitled little boy that doesn't know how to handle adult emotions. That is why I'm not a fan. And I feel like when we take it into a contemporary romance setting, the characters of Kylo and Rey are not the characters from Star Wars. Like, I don't understand where you're getting the personalities that are represented in the contemporary romances, because for me, Kylo Ren's pathetic and Rey's like a boring blank canvas, so I don't understand how they're being characterized in the way they are in contemporary romance. But that's why I can get behind that, because it's not actually very much like Star Wars. This is so much like Star Wars that I just literally cannot support it, because I just can't support Kylo Ren in any way, shape or form. By the time we got to the end movie that he was in, I kind of got the Reylo vibes, but then if you just take a step back and look at his character arc, it's just not good. It's not good. Yeah, I'm trying not to DNF this book. I really am. And I posted in my Instagram stories that I'm not enjoying it. Like a handful, like a very small amount of people said that they enjoyed it, but the majority of those people said that they only enjoyed it after the 40 to 50% mark. And then everybody else was like, this was a massive waste of my time. I wish I'd DNF'd. So I wanted to at least get to halfway to see if we do get to a point where I'm enjoying it. Because every time I feel like I'm sinking into it, I get taken out of the story somehow. I really don't like the writing in this, because it's very descriptive, very much too descriptive. It's definitely overwritten. I had a moment like 20-30 pages ago where I wondered if a human or a thesaurus from this book. We also have like massive run-on sentences and stuff, but it's so descriptive that I can't tell you what anything looks like, because the description is just like a lot of pretty words that mean nothing. So I feel like you can tell I'm not having a good time. But it's not like overly offensive, like it's fine to read. It's just instead of getting into it, I'm just like raising my eyebrows at pretty much everything that's happening. I think I like it.
Love them. But yeah, my lunches were normally the second portion of the dinner from the night before, with rice, microwave rice, and microwave steamed vegetables, curry, something along the lines of that. If I was having like a dinner that felt,
be allowed to potentially be heartbroken. So it's like, honey, you can find someone better. You don't need this one. Way different than I think you would imagine. Probably, because I'm not even wrapping my brain around it. Because I was like, oh, this is going to end in like...
So the good news is that I am actually going to finish this book. I have just under 100 pages left, so I will definitely be making it to the end. And it is good news as well, because I did put this down for a couple of days. I got to the halfway point, I set it aside for a couple of days, and I very nearly did not come back to it. Can I say that I'm glad that I did? I don't think that it would be an awful thing if I DNF this book, but I do think it is better in the second half. So it moves away from being so obviously Star Wars in the second half, although the characters, like the guy, I just see Kylo Ren, like I literally can't see anyone else, which I mean is kind of the point, so whatever. But I do think that as we move away from the setup of this, which I don't think this book is established very well at all, so the further you get into the story, the better it does get. It does still really hinge on this relationship between these two that I really do not care about though, and it's a slow burn as well, so it's like simmering or slow burning throughout the course of this book, assumedly building to something, but I'm just really not invested in the relationship. The characters don't feel three-dimensional for me. Nothing about this world, this story, or these characters feel three-dimensional to me. So I'm really struggling to become absorbed in the story at any point. I still don't think that the writing is the best. There is a lot of run-on sentences in here, a lot of words that aren't really saying much of anything, a lot of description that just aren't building a picture to me. There's no atmosphere in this book for me. So it's still not a great time. I don't think I'm going to rate this book very highly. Just think, because I truly have no investment in this book at all, that it's very easy. Like, I feel like I could put this down and walk away from it right now. So while we are definitely going to have a book finished in this vlog, and I am actually hoping to finish this later today, sadly, I don't feel like it's going to be a great verdict. I did go and get my hair refreshed today if I look dramatically more blonde, but I wanted to come and let you guys know that I did manage to finish the Hurricane Wars in bed last night, and my thoughts on it pretty much haven't changed. I do think that the second half of this is much better than the first. I don't feel like the author does a very good job of introducing you to this world and really giving you much of a clue as to what's going on. You really are just thrown in there, and I don't feel like anything really becomes any more well explained or any clearer the further you go into it. I feel like the place where this story starts is just not the right place for a series to begin, because when you get to that halfway mark, it's actually much slower paced, and also the situation, like the political climate, changes a little bit. I don't feel like we ever needed to be in the thick of the action of this war before everything so drastically changes. I feel like it could have opened up after that stuff had changed and just talked about how in the past there had been all of these battles and this big war and that kind of thing, because I really just didn't feel like where this story started and where it ended up felt right and was a good introduction into this book and into this series. This is a little bit too Raylo for my liking, and I know you could argue, I mean, it's Raylo fanfic, but I have read Raylo fanfic before that takes the characters or the ideas of the characters and puts them into something that doesn't feel immediately like Star Wars. But like I said to you guys earlier, this has ships in the sky. I think they're in the sky. They're in the sky, right? But they're like normal ships, like sea ships with sails, and I'm pretty sure they're in the sky. But because of how obvious the Star Wars inspiration was in this book, spaceships all the way for me. Like spaceships and spaceships only. I never imagined anything else. I feel like such an obvious comparison puts very clear imagery in your head, and I don't love the writing style in here, but no amount of description erased that immediate mental picture that I had of the setting of this world. When you get to, I think it's called Nenevarine, potentially, is one of the main territories in this world. I do feel like there was a little bit more world building there, but I do feel like this book really lacked depth and atmosphere that really grounded me in the story, and I didn't care about the characters. It feels like it relies on you knowing that this is Raylo, and knowing Raylo, with it being such like an almost true representation of the Star Wars characters, for you to know anything about these characters. The author, to me, isn't doing the work. And when it comes to us publishing fan fiction and it being inspired by the source material at this point, I feel like the author is responsible to do a little work, because this isn't fan fiction. It's now is it fan fiction? It's based on fan fiction. Is it AU? I'm not a fan fiction girly in general, as you can tell, but I feel like if we are taking this and publishing it as a novel, the author needs to do a little bit more work in really fleshing out these characters and not relying on your knowledge of Star Wars to be able to sink into this. But this did just feel like Star Wars and the Grisha mashed together with no actual world building on the part of the author that really established this story in my mind. So for that reason, I just truly had no attachment to it at all, which even when the book started to get better in the second half, my enjoyment was already impacted. There are double-decker buses going past, and I'm talking like the ring light, I feel makes it really obvious when they're going past and they can see into the room, and the traffic has stopped. Yeah, you just keep going, keep going, keep going. Thank you. So I gave it 2 stars. It was fine. and this one is going to be hitting my unhaul pile once again. So this vlog did not go as planned. I mean, in terms of the purpose of this, we are trying to get the books either onto my shelves or onto my unhaul pile, and we have been successful in the most efficient way possible, like literally just reading and straight unhauling, or DNFing and straight unhauling, which is great for the purpose of the project. I don't feel like I did a very good job at illustrating all of the ways that this vlog series could play out in this video, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because this is the thing with vlogs, like you go in with the best intentions. I intended to show you a variety of ways that this was going to work, and it sadly didn't play out this way, because I promised you guys elements of the unhaul project, elements of like chaos, and elements of bookshelf reorganization, and I only really delivered on the unhaul project. So tomorrow I am going to be filming some bits for the intro to this vlog, and I am also going to be rearranging some of the books in the stack. So instead of doing that after I've closed out this vlog, setting up for the next episode, because I haven't delivered on those bookshelf organization elements that I promised, I am going to treat you guys to a little bit of bookshelf reorganization here before we close out the vlog. These can definitely go on shelves because I've already read from Sarah El-Arifi before, so theoretically they should have a home. The same kind of goes for Iron Flame, because I've read Fourth Wing, so this should really be with that. I just wanted to leave it here on the off chance it came up, because that would have been really helpful. Also, I really should get Robin Hobb on the shelves. Oh, this is scary. I'm scared. Oh my god. This is not it, my guys. Colleen Hoover also should potentially find a home with the rest of my Colleen Hoover books. So out of all of these, the only thing that I haven't read on this shelf is The Ship of Theseus, which I just don't think is a very good book for this project to go into the stacks, and Lady Hotspur by Tessa Grattan, but that obviously goes with the Queens of Innislia. But I can take from the bottom shelf, so to get the 2 excessive copies, I have a third coming as well, because Ryan has the Waterstones edition and doesn't need it, so I will have 3 copies of this book. But to get my already excessive 2 copies on, I'm going to take off Only a Monster by Vanessa Len and move this along. That gets me 1, and then from down here I will also take out Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. So now these 2 are actually going to be a bit of an issue, because I have read all of these books apart from The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, so this one can come off. The question we need to ask ourselves here is, can I unhaul this? Because I actually didn't enjoy it very much, but I really liked this one. I'm torn. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put this one. No, am I? I don't know, it's too hard. I think I'm gonna keep hold of this for now, and I'm going to put Iron Flame on this shelf, and then I'm going to put Colleen Hoover back downstairs for now. So this means that The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon will be going into the stacks. And also, after I started this vlog project, I realised that there were books in stacks that I forgot to take downstairs, because they were originally like spread all over the house, and for the sake of like the video I put them all together, but I forgot that I have this big old stack of books here. Now, I do think I am going to unhaul all of these, so I'm not even going to bother including them, because I think pretty soon I'm just going to let them go. They're also hella dusty, wow. But at the bottom here, I have 4 hardbacks that I haven't read. This, I have nowhere to put it. I have read it, so we won't include that. I feel like I need more space for hardback romance books, but these 4 will be going down into the stack, so then I'll get them out first. So we have For Your Consideration by Amy Spalding. This one was an Afterlight book. It's a sapphic romance. I have Luna Love by Lauren Kung Jessen. This one was one of my book of the month picks, I think, from right at the beginning of last year. The Reunion by Kayla Olson, which was another book of the month romance pick. And Glow by Raven Kennedy, which I picked up because it was half price at Waterstones and I need to read it. This is where I'm up to in the series, but I didn't really want a hardback, so I took the opportunity to pick it up while it was half price, and now it took me so long that the paperback's out, so I didn't even need to buy it. But I won't be keeping this anyway. I will probably read it, but then I'll get a paperback copy to match the rest of my Plated Prisoner books, or they won't match because I have the indie paperbacks and now they're traditionally published in the UK, but they'll match better than this massive hardback does. So this I'm essentially just hanging on to until I've actually read it. And then my Robin Hobb book should be on here, but as you can see there's like nothing I can do about this because it's just full. So I think instead of this being a Robin Hobb shelf as intended, it is just going to be a Realm of the Elderling shelf, because I'm not getting anything else on here, which means that we have to try and get is it the Renegade Sons or something? What is that series called? Soldier Son. We have to get the Soldier Sons trilogy onto here somehow. Do you want to know why I'm struggling so much with filming this as well? It is because I'm in the process of filming some stuff that you'll have seen in the intro of this video, but I need to not move that camera, so I'm going handheld. We're using my small tripod, but I can't even pick all these up with one hand. This is going to be a struggle because these are thick books. Let's see where they should go. G is here, H starts here with Hamilton. So this shelf, these ones in particular are not great, so this is going to take a hot sec. So not an ideal solution there because of the size of the Robin Hood books. I had to take 4 books off to add to the stacks instead of just 3. I didn't want to do this because if I have more than one book by one author, I'd rather they stayed together on the shelves than ended up in the stacks. But I have Seraphina and Tess of the Road by Rachel Hartman. I remember Pierre Ford read this a long time ago and loved it, which is why I have it. But I believe that this one is a standalone spin-off of this, which I think is the start of a series, and there's dragons in it. Is it like potentially Victorian-esque? I also have The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin, which was a super hyped YA book back in the day that I just never got around to. It was one that I was quite late getting to. It took me ages to find it in a charity shop, and now it's just been a long time since I've had it as well. And I also have Warcross by Marie Lu, which is a sci-fi, like a fast-paced one, I think. There was also a super hyped YA that I never got around to, so I'm going to be adding these 4 to the stacks. And I think, is that all of the rearranging we're doing today? I think that works. So let's count up how many books I now currently have in the stacks. So I ended up going out yesterday and kind of abandoning everything that I was in the middle of, but I have counted up all of the books that we now have in the stacks since I did a little bit of shelf reorganization, and we have 71 books in there now, so that is one more than we started this episode with, which obviously is very much not the way that we want things to be going, but I do accept that that is my own fault because I didn't manage to get together all of the books that should have been in the stacks in the first place. So after that reorganization yesterday, I just added a bunch to it that I left behind the first time around. That's pretty much where we're going to be starting next episode, providing that between now and me starting that episode, I don't end up, you know, just like organically moving stuff around, which is very likely to happen because at the end of every month when I film my wrap up, I decide from what I've read what I'm going to be unhauling and like rearrange my shelves accordingly. So I will obviously check in, let you guys know what our total is at the beginning of our next episode, which with that in mind, I do kind of intend to do these monthly to bi-monthly, but next month is very much up in the air for me. So if the next episode ends up being a little bit later, like I would not be surprised, but I do want these to be at least bi-monthly so that we can make a decent dent in these stacks before the end of 2024. Now I know that we didn't have a whole ton of variety in this video in terms of I either DNF'd or didn't like everything I read, so it went straight to the unhaul pile, which is obviously very successful in terms of the end goal of this project, but not in terms of like going through the full scale of how we're gonna clear through the books on the floor. But I do feel like we did have a good variety of books in this one because we had a book that I kind of didn't want to read and I was only hanging on to it so that I could give it a try. Turns out I didn't like it. We had a book that has been on my shelves for 5 years and I've been very, very intimidated by. Gave it a try. Turns out I just could not hack it. Like I just could not push through this with the level of just unhappiness I was feeling as I was reading this one. It was really putting me off. And then we also had a book that I've only had for about 3 months, one that is super hyped, one that I've been looking for an excuse to prioritize, and it turns out I didn't like this one either. So at least we have variety somewhere, if not in like my range of feelings on these books as a whole. So that about wraps up episode 1 of Shelve It or Scrap It. Of course, as this is a new thing, down in my comments, please let me know what you think of this project. And aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Candle website, the Etsy for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.